Well, hello everyone. Here to talk about right here. I talk about for job advertisements and then other source of job offerings right here. And I use this Apple Mac icon right here. For an example of like if it's supposed to be representing for now hiring right here. But let's just say that on average though that we're going to be thinking about applying for a job, and I was also thinking too if I want to go ahead and maybe use the still document right here just to show some examples of knowing about that. If we're talking about advertisements, or maybe if we're talking about building on top of a project or modifying any documents or anything like distilling images or something like that, but really though that it sure seems that way. It's really all about whenever you do fill out a job application. A lot of times, it seems like to me that it's not no guarantee just to be able to no guarantee to be hired for the job. And a lot of times, and a lot of times you always want to know too that whenever you do apply for a job, a lot of times to me though it's just like typical window shopping. Like if we all know what window shopping pretty much means is to where if you buy any of their products, and then if you thought about maybe joining a team at one of these days or something like that, or something like come back and save more and something like that. But still, what does it usually mean when we see now hiring signs really anywhere? Like if you go to maybe to like a company lot or something like that, or go to an actual location, and let's just say if you see a now hiring sign right there, and a lot of times you want to know too that really that how many of us are really going to see this right here talk about for what belongs to you. So I was just thinking too that if I want to go ahead and include an exclamation point right there or a question mark, but like everybody else might say that really that's supposed to be right now I'm just kind of right. I just have it displayed right here is that if it's supposed to be like a point to the matter. So let's just say if you're going to be applying for a job, that what you really are trying to point out to the hiring manager is that something about you that you are desperately in need to be hired. And so it sure seems that way that every time we think about an application, a lot of times that how many of us are maybe going to include something such as toward that please or something like yeah that something like I am interested or something like that in this job. I am interested in this position But then on the other hand, it seems like to me that you would include on but on the other hand, I need the proper training. So let's just say that on average, though, that when we're talking about applying for a job, that opportunity, I'm like, I can say, but I need the proper training. So it sure seems that way that when we do think about a job, a lot of times that you want to know too is toward it. There's a lot more to it than that. I'm like, whenever you do look at a job application, and let's just say that you see this right here, and then let's just say there's a details right on the front or on the side, such as your scan your phone, use this code here, or text this person, the hiring manager at this number or something like that. But it sure seems that way that whenever it comes to applying for a job, that one thing that really inspires me a lot of times is toward I usually say is toward that the things for what I do. Then let's just say that if you're going to be in line with maybe 50 other candidates or something like that, or maybe if it's going to be maybe 100 people at a time, they're going to be applying for that same job. And 102 is toward it whenever you do send an application. And well, what's one thing that we can maybe be inspired by when we talk about filling out an application and actually going through the process? And And I know, like everybody else might even say too, that you can get really aggravated about that because number one, that you may not even hear back about the application, or that you might think that according to what the ad says, that yeah, that you apply for that job, but then of course it's like you still didn't get the job for that reason, or is it really maybe come back you're coming to where that you check out your hiring status as maybe going to maybe say something like you're not hireable or something like that. But when we're talking about now hiring, it seems like to me that yeah, that like everybody else might say, that the details about what's going on, about okay, you can go and talk to the hiring manager about that, or if there is a problem with that with the application or something like that, and so that's why it sure seems that way. That yeah, hashtags, and so it sure seems that way that if you were to maybe had to include a hashtag on your application, and let's just say that this hashtag is going to be like which calls like a quote note or something like that. The quote notes or something like that. Reasons to why this company should keep your application status at the second place or something like that. And then I know, like everybody else might even say too, that if you're going to check your application status, that if most hiring managers are going to be like that, to where that yeah, that if you come in maybe fifth place, or maybe if you come in at number 10, so far as the hiring point. So it's basically another way of stating is to where that you are waiting in line, waiting for that good opportunity to where if you got the job or not. So it's like, yeah, it's all about waiting in line. And I just really think too that in a lot of ways that why yeah, the same time you are filling out the application, the answers to an application, the same time that you're filling out the answers to an application is the same time that somebody's going to be calling you for an interview, right? And say if it's not going to be maybe 30 minutes, it's maybe going to be within 3 days later. But it sure seems that way. That what if it is 3 weeks later, since you applied, and a 102 that yeah, well really that nowadays with a lot of these job sites, it says toward that they're going to go ahead and yeah, please check your inbox on your email, and even on your profile account, just to see about what opportunities are available. So a lot of times it sure seems that way. That why is it that these and like and I know this is something that maybe like anybody else would say too. That why is it that maybe something like that, like on Distiller, could probably do is to where that why don't you put something on there such as open up a profile account closet today or something like that, and you'll you want to know too that a lot of these candidates who are applying for a job, that really all what they really see right here is like this logo right here represent for the company, right? But one thing I did include right here, I talk about whenever I was looking at this using Photoshop, and I was just thinking too that what belongs to you. And it seems like to me that is that supposed to be a question, or is that which cause supposed to be like a paraphrase to where that it's supposed to be a point, or if anything, like everybody else would say too, yeah, what belongs to you. So whenever you apply for the job, that do you think that maybe that you should really keep something like that in mind to where that what belongs to you, to where that company finds interesting about what you do, and then knowing as to where okay, if you are the perfect fit for this job. So it sure seems that way that whenever you do apply for a job, a number of times it's happened, even with me though, that whenever you do apply for a job, that it seems like it's like that there's a lot more to it, right? And it's all just for practice. But we don't need to have that to where that whenever you do fill out so many applications to where that you start getting phone calls, and people start asking that to where okay, are you available for an interview? And so we don't need to have that to where that like everybody else would maybe say too, that hasn't always been like that, to where that your applications go into these companies, right? And you don't really keep count, and it may seem like that you fill out maybe 10 or maybe 20, like per day, that you may fill out maybe 10 applications per day or something like that, and it seems like that they're going out all over, and a lot of times it seems like to where that you're quite a bit used to it, to where it seems like to where that you're going to be maybe getting a response and saying that we decide to move forward with the process. We'll call you when we need you, and stuff like that. But in a lot of ways, it's like you want to go ahead and to include, like, maybe like on the cover letter or something like that. But really, that something that talks about what belongs to you that expires them. So that's something that you can also think about, is to where something yeah, what belongs to you, and I can yeah, which expires them. And so it's like, yeah, for what yeah, I'm like, for what inspires, I'm like, yeah, with what impressive, anything about impressive, being impressive about something. I was also thinking too that if I want to use maybe the FedEx logo as an example, just because that I think I see a lot of now hiring, ads for them also, and it's like, so it sure seems that way, that a lot of times that whenever you do look at an application, a lot of times it sure seems that way, that yeah, that what I usually hear though is that you don't want to ask them too many questions, but let's just say though that at some point, if they're going to look at your resume and look at the even your job experiences though, and you'll want to know too, is to where that is that really the case about the fact that whenever you do apply for a job, and then let's just say that there's maybe 100 people in line waiting to get the return or a call back or something like that about the job opportunity, right? And that's why it seems like that you want to start out the sentence by saying what belongs to you and which expires. Impress them. So what I mean by that is that whenever you apply for a job, I'm talking about them, the company. The company, the party to who you apply for. So let's yeah, that you apply for or to, but still. But so it sure seems that way. That it seems like it's always the question over the fact that whenever you put an application in, that it seems like that yeah, that whenever you apply for the job though, that it's like, yeah, that most of the time that that you put a request to where that you say that you're only available to work Mondays and Fridays, or if anything, you are available only to work Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, or even on the weekends, right? But half the time you want to know too that is that really if there's really any rules about that so far as employment. If you are going to be applying for a job though, that they say is toward it, yeah, well, really, do you think, if anything, that would be something to discuss whenever after you are hired for the job? But still, like, a lot of times it seems like that there are a lot of things that we do need to understand about a lot of the job descriptions and a lot of job advertisements. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, now I'm hiring, but on the other hand, that why is it that, yeah, why is it that this is going to remind me just a little bit of, like, maybe the Apple iTunes or something? I'm like, yeah, something about that you heard about this position whenever you were listening to a music artist or something like that. So yeah, so it's like, for what belongs to you. So it's like that question, of course, can probably be paraphrased in a number of ways, right? But But what I'm talking about right here is actually biases toward what's one thing that belongs to you that you are willing to share with the company. So it's like, it seems like to me that people may even say too that, well, really, why can't you just put that into a question instead of a point? But like for whatever reason, at this the way this shows right here, for what inspires me to word that Apple Mac computers, for what belongs to you that you're trying to tell the company about you. What is it that you do that really inspires the clients and the customers? So what is it that you can provide to them that's what that they're willing to buy? And so it sure seems that way that any career opportunities would maybe ask those sorts of questions as toward that what is it about you that's a need. And but a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we talk about now hiring, and help needed or something like that, and a lot of times it seems like to where that there's a lot more to it than maybe what you see advertised, right? And that's why it seems like to where that like everybody else maybe say too that, well, do you think that maybe the hiring managers, I'm like, yeah, you might get a little pretty aggravated, frustrated with them, just because of the fact that how many times a day do you check your inbox just to see who's trying to apply for that job and who's trying to get the job. And but it sure seems that way that when we speak about job applications, though, it sure seems that way that things are a lot different now than what they used to be. And it sure seems that way to where that just to kind of do your homework, though, and just knowing as to where that the things that kind of get, the hiring team's attention. And a lot of times I can remember that this was back in 2002. I can remember that whenever I was applying for the job, that it was like, yeah, well, we got a number of applications already, but it sure seems that way that that for what that belongs to you, and it's like you want to go ahead and start the sentence by saying as toward what belongs to you that does inspire them, that does impress them. And I just really think to where that you really just had to do a presentation to show them something interesting that makes this company really want to be anxious to say that, hey, we are. I'm like, yeah, this is what we are willing to buy the work for what you do, for what we sell. And so that's why it seems like that to where that when we talk about now hiring, it's like you want to know too that why is it the sign cannot say now hiring the most experienced famous personnel or something like that. Why can't the sign say something like now hiring the professionals with at least 10 years of experience or something like that? So it sure seems that way that like everybody else might even say that whenever we're talking about the hiring point, though, that it seems like to where that that like a encore or a quote or something like that. And so it seems like every time we think about that, though, is that really that's why I mentioned this on the bottom right here. Talk about for what belongs to you, and it's like you really want to start the conversation by stating as toward it about a little bit about yourself, and also about what is it that you were trained to do, and about you, and for what makes what you do interesting to the company. And it seems like to me, though, it's like, yeah, that a lot of companies would maybe even say too that the chances of you getting the job, of course, all goes by stating as toward if you were picked, for this position, and if there was something about you, about what you do, that really impressed them, impressed the company, and so that's why it sure seems that way that. For the most part, that like everybody else might even say that it's going on long enough to where it seems like to where that you had to be a member for a year, just to be, if you're lucky, you have to be a member for at least 6 months, just for your chances of, getting a call back about a job opportunity. So it seems like to me that it's all about, activating, yeah, it's all about an activation of an account, and it seems like to me though, it's like, if you're able to talk to a manager in person about something, but at the time it seems like that, the basic needs of knowledge though, and but still knowledge and so every time I think about it, though, that it sure seems that way to where that. Whenever you look at these applications, these job ads, a lot of times it's going to kind of remind me just a similar thing from what I usually see and talk about for distiller follows, right? Is that whenever we're talking about a hiring point, though, that you want to know too that why is it that those advertisements can't say something like, for famous professionals or something like that, or that for the medical field or something like that, or you have to be a student advisor to be qualified, or to go to the next level, and the next chapter. The next chapter, you don't really see very many job just something like the next chapter, or the next level, next chapter or the next level. You don't really see that too often. So it sure seems that way that you talk about the sequel though, but like everybody else might even say, that if you see a job application open for like maybe for the Macintosh computers or something like that, and let's just say that the job application is maybe going to say something like, we are in need, for a specialist junior, for a specialist junior, and people might even say too that okay, what is a specialist junior? And I guess you could say that different names for what they have for these jobs, but it sure seems that way that every time you think about that, though, talk about, for the sequel, or if it is maybe for like what you call the job level or something like that, but still, that it seems like that whenever you do put in an application, a lot of times for a job, it sure seems that way to where that you are pretty much applying to request to work a certain position, right? But a lot of times it may happen to where that if somebody did get back to you about a job opportunity, but then they tell you something like the specialist junior, or something like a secretary. Say secretary. A secretary. Front desk clerk or something like. I'm like, those. I know that those are two separate things, but I'm just saying. Front desk clerk or something like that. The things that I usually see. Front desk clerk. And, yeah, I know it. Front desk clerk and, the front desk clerk. So, it's, I'm like, front desk clerk at, 2 or something like that. I'm like, people may want to know, too, that, well, really, what is that supposed to mean right there? The front desk 2, senior advisor. And a lot of times you want to know too that you see these you see a list of a category of about maybe 3 or 4 different job positions, but then you see a 1 or 2 right there, and you might even see junior right there, or maybe a senior developer or something like that right there. And you want to know too, what is that all about? Is that supposed to be maybe a promotion, or or something like that? And everybody else might even say that usually means for a promotion. I'm like, if it's promotion, or it could also maybe be a bias as to where if they I'm like, yeah, maybe for backup purposes or something like this. So yeah, if so a lot of these companies might even say too that there's to where that if they're needing somebody to be on standby for a position to where all we ask you to do is just to verify it, to making sure that everything is all correct. And so it sure seems that way. That every time we think about a job, though, that there are some jobs that they'll tell you that all you really have to do is just keep this saved and stored somewhere. All you really have to do is just answer a few questions. I'm like, so yeah. Let's just say that if the job description is to where that all you really have to do is coordinate. Yeah, coordinate or something like that. All you really have to do is coordinate, or you answer a few questions. All you have to do is just answer a few questions. So it sure seems that way, that whenever you read these job descriptions a lot of times, and you might even think that you didn't go any further with that job, application, just because of all the details that were explained in 102 is to where they, can you handle that? And so it's like, yeah, can you handle this? So it sure seems that way that, if that's really a question, or like everybody else would say that your exclamation point is toward, well, really, that you want to just kind of want to point that, in the right direction to where, okay, for who's willing to handle that. But on the other hand, it's like whenever you read these job descriptions a lot of times, for the most part, that not only are you reading the details about it, but a lot of things that you really are not really looking forward to. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, that everything looks all nice and beautiful with this logo and this advertisement right here. But still, like everybody else might even say that there's a lot of details about that job that you were not quite understood about, or if anything that for the management, but still. But whenever we speak about a job, though, it's another way of stating to where it's a responsibility, right? Like the duties and responsibilities about that job is toward it that there was a lot. It was a lot more than what a person can handle. A person could handle. So it sure seems that way, that when we think about jobs, though, that it's like a lot of these tasks and a lot of these responsibilities, though, that what's one thing that maybe we can really overcome whenever it comes to handling high-tech jobs and responsibilities, anything else that you're working on. And it sure seems that way to where that whenever we call a dream job, though, something that you always wanted to do, right? But it sure seems that way that when we speak about jobs, though, that not only are we talking about a paycheck, right? We're also talking about is toward it, the amount of stress and anxiety, but then also about a lot of everybody else might even say too that there's a big difference between whenever you do apply for a job, and then maybe about how many years of experience that you do have with by the time you do get a job, and then knowing about the things that you really want to talk about with everybody else about that job, right? And so that's why it seems like that toward it, whenever you do apply for the job, though, it seems like that there's a difference between what is expected and maybe that what you're willing to provide to this position. And so it sure seems that way that the harder it gets, then maybe that the harder it is. And a lot of times it seems like to where that there's a lot of jobs out there that might even say too is to where that whenever you do think about a job, though, that there are a lot of things that you may have missed, and you want to know too that a lot of things that you may have missed. I'm like, do you even want to talk about a lot of things that you missed about the job, and anything that you may have missed, and a lot of times it's like the overall expectations and all that, but really that the things that you're willing to overcome, right? But it sure seems that way. That whenever we do think about a job, a lot of times, that you want to know too that why should I? Yeah, why should I spend 1 hour completing completing a an application completing an application plus on top of that, on top of plus plus an assessment, and plus an assessment, and then plus an interview. So a lot of that time right there, and so it sure seems that way. That why should you spend your time filling out an application plus an assessment and plus an interview? And so those are 3 or 4 different tasks, and maybe let's just say if it's going to take you maybe 5 days, just to be able to work everything all out, right? And so you're 102 that that may not be no guarantee that you're going to be hired for the job, but like everybody else might even say too, it is to where thanks for your interest, or if anything, that thanks for your time. And a lot of times a lot of these companies would tell you that thanks for your time, but you didn't get the job, but what's one thing that you did get, from all the work that you put into just trying to take interest into this job. And like everybody else might say that you would maybe say that like for 100% of the time that that what did you get on average, is to where like, well, if anything, you get maybe a thank you, such as maybe a greeting card or something like that. Everybody else might even say that you'll be lucky to get you'll be lucky to get a special thank you, from the job. And if anything, you'll be lucky if you even get a gift. You'll be lucky if you get a gift card from them. But it sure seems that way, that when we're talking about a job application, though, that it seems like to where that there's something about that job application that you can maybe mention to them, that maybe that they're not going to get from any other candidates. And a lot of times it seems like that, well, really, if this company can only hire 5 or 10 people at a time, then maybe you could say something, but it expires something about you that a lot of companies would say, is toward that want to go ahead and get you hired immediately. And so a lot of times what I usually hear is that besides the work experience, though, that if we are if you are willing to start immediately. And so a lot of times it's like, for I'm trying to say immediately, but for immediately. And but like, I can just say attention or something like that. Starting now or something like that. But still. But a lot of times it seems like that whenever I'm like, it's a lot harder than what it looks, of course. But like everybody else would say too, that whenever you're going to be starting a conversation with somebody, a lot of times it sure seems that way, that that you're going to maybe be getting a response, by somebody, like on live chat, and say as to where they're going to maybe put in quotes as to where that how. How you or something like, how you or you by or dash or something like that experience. How you have you experience, and have has or something like that. So a lot of times have and has. So whenever you do, yeah. So it seems like to me that that's kind of like just a little bit like an equation, to where if you can really answer these questions properly in a reasonable manner, though, and let's just say that maybe within about maybe 5 days you might get a response from a hiring manager or from somebody working there, like, or maybe it could be an Autobot or somebody like that. But still that each time we think about filling out a job application, though, it sure seems that way, to where that there's something about what is it that you do that maybe I'm like, yeah. It's like, yeah, well, before you send in your resume, before you send in your cover letter, that these companies are not going to see everything, properly. So let's just say, yeah, job assessments and all, but still, I tell you one thing, everybody, that there really ain't no secret about it, but it sure seems that way. That I've actually I've actually yeah, I've filled out so many job applications in the past, where it seems like it's all just for practice, but it sure seems that way, toward it. You want to start out by saying this, toward it. There's something about my work that I know that works, and I'm not going to tell you until I hear that I'm hired. So it sure seems that way, that you maybe want to leave. I'm like, yeah, so far as any secrets or something like that, secret ingredients, but like everybody else might even say too, that if you're going to maybe get mad enough and maybe say something like, maybe put like on, like, in the quotes or something like that. You start out with a question, and then maybe you add in maybe a few comments. So it sure seems that way, that during the interview, though, do you really want to start out, I'm like, yeah, reasons why, and then apply. So it sure seems that way, that yeah, you start out a conversation like that. Maybe not everybody's really going to know what is it that you're talking about or something like that, but it sure seems that way, that you would think that with most job applications now being filled out online, that you would maybe think as toward that maybe everybody else would have a little bit more time to discuss about the things that they do, and maybe the things that they're good at, and maybe that ain't no secret at all. But I know something that maybe you don't, and maybe that this other personnel does not know, and maybe you should take at least 5 minutes of your time to schedule an interview with us. So it sure seems that way, that think about reasons why apply. So it sure seems that way, that do we think that maybe that could be what's called the bottom line of the equation right here, as I think about reasons why apply. So it sure seems that way. I guess if you want to kind of call it like a narrative right here, to where that reasons, and like any source of, I keep saying all about equations, but I'm just trying to think about a few facts, especially. But on the other hand, too, it's like whenever you're talking about applying for a job, a lot of times, it's like, yeah, jobs are not just the jobs, to where it's like just just do your best or something like that, or JJ, as in is to join the club or something like that. We're not just talking about just joining the club or just becoming a member. We're talking about to where that person, like whenever you do apply for a job, you are providing resources to the company, right? To what is it about you that they need. And so it sure seems that way, to where that if you're trying to think about ways of how to convert this to a question or to a scenario, right? And a lot of times it seems like to where that whenever you apply for a job, that what you are pretty much doing is to where you're not just getting practice with it, right? But then you're also thinking about your common sense, to where that somebody sees your application a lot. Yeah, they see your application, but then it's like, you may think as to where, don't worry about any mistakes you made on the application. Yeah, don't worry about any mistakes. Don't worry about any mistakes made on the application. Yeah, don't worry about any mistakes made on that application, because on the other hand, that the company may not even be calling you back about that position that you applied for, or if anything, that maybe if it was just for practice or something like that. But still, if you filled out so many job applications to where it seems that way, to where they don't worry about if you made a mistake on the application. Maybe if you provided the wrong availability on the application, but really that most applications are there, just to get you in the system, just to be able to get you on, in the system, just to be able to get you listed, and for you to be contacted about what's available. And so a lot of times it seems like to where that it all started out like everybody else would say too. It all started out on averages toward if you want to go ahead and write down a grocery list or something like that. But at the time you want to know too that whenever you think about an application, a lot of times that you think about that to where an application to me, like everybody else may say, it's supposed to be a scenario to where that it's just like taking a test, to where there's going to be you get so many answers right or wrong, right? But on the other hand, that it's like whenever you do fill out an application, that you're supposed to get, the application is supposed to be about communication, right? And knowing about whenever you do fill out that application, and everybody else is maybe going to say is to where that there might be some things that you just don't remember about the application. There are some things that you do remember about the application. But one thing that you do remember about the application would be is to where, okay, if you are a U.S. citizen, and also it's going to maybe be asking you about to where to where are you, how many years of experience? Yeah, how many years of experience? But it sure seems that way that you want to go ahead and is there really a short answer to that? And do you want to go ahead and maybe put on here 10 plus the amazing things to know about me. So really, do you really want to put that on an application? And everybody else might even say that, well, really, that whenever you're talking about applying for a job, what you really are doing is that you're really are reaching out to those companies. It's like what you're now hiring. That we are now accepting applications to those candidates who believe that they are right for the job, or for any reason at all, that if we're really are needing somebody to be able to fill a position, or that there's something about you that makes you brighter than the star, right? So it sure seems that way, that when we speak about jobs, and it's like for Apple computers, it can also maybe be HP or Compaq computers or something like that. But it sure seems that way, that whenever you see now hiring, somebody might even say that there was a lot more detail than that. There was a lot more detail. I'm like, we're talking about a lot. It was a lot harder than what you thought it was, and there was a lot more detail than what you expected. But on your hand, that seems like to where that how do you know when you do get the job? And so it sure seems that way. Like everybody else might even say that you would know whenever they put you on the schedule. Whenever you see your schedule. Whenever you do see your schedule, or that whenever they send you, whenever you receive a gift. Or if anything that they give you a bonus, or or they give you information about direct deposit or something like that. about direct deposit. Yep. Yeah, or it could be something like direct deposit, and also about you know the training process, the training so yeah, your scenarios and training, and usually it's training. That's usually what I see. So let's just say that on average, though, that if it's going to be about whenever you are hired for a job, and you would know for sure if you are hired for the job, but half the time it seems like to where that like everybody else might even say is toward yeah, well, there are a lot of things for what you were trained to do. You may not use all you may not use all your skills, right? If you were trained to do some things, and maybe some things that you were not trained to do, and so that's why it seems like to where every time we think about a job opportunity, right, and 102, that whenever we do say, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot more to it, but really that yeah, the first day or something like that, yeah, first day, and it's like yeah, and then they might say that it wasn't it was not as easy as easy as you thought it was, huh? So yeah, so it seems like to me that if that's supposed to be you know paraphrased into a question, or if they're just kind of like trying to get your attention, or if anything, it's really supposed to be like the narrative, like yeah, for any comments, or like yeah, it was not as easy as what you thought. So yeah, so I guess that right there, if you want to kind of put that into like a scenario. And so it's like, yeah, it wasn't as easy as you thought it was it? But still. So the way we think about that, though, whenever it comes to applying for a job, though, that it sure seems that way, that you have a meeting with somebody, and 102 is toward it. How do you know whenever you are hired for the job, and then knowing about all the work that you're doing, and just 102 is toward it. That if the whole part about perspective is toward it. Yeah, just be surprised, right? But it sure seems that way, that every time we think about a job, though, that you're thinking is toward that you fill out so many job applications to the point where you're starting to you're now starting to forget the ones that you've already filled out from a week ago. And so it seems like to me that at the time it seems like that you've done so many of them to where it seems like it's all just for practice, right? But talk about for the brighter days ahead, that just knowing is to where that like everybody else might even say that 1 year, yeah, and half the time it seems like that you just really just have to say that 1 year of experience. I'm like, yeah, 1 year of experience that gradually pays off on its own. So it sure seems that way. To how many of us will maybe really believe that, or if anything, a lot of times it seems like that, like everybody else might even say, that whenever you do apply for a job, that you're going to get mad a lot. I'm like, yeah, a lot of the frustration, the complications, and everything. But it sure seems that way, that you just really just have to think about that toward the point about whenever we talk about jobs, that jobs are another way of how you want to call it, of an opportunity. Like yeah, there are opportunities, but then also that another way, if you want to look at it, is toward it making your time. Yeah, making your time time flexible. So I was going to maybe say relevant, but I'm like, yeah, flexible, flexible to those that need. So it sure seems that way that, yeah, whenever you do fill out a job application, it's possible that there might be some things that you need now, and maybe it need to be signed now, or you need to take care of this now, or something like that. And so it sure seems that way that for there for a long time, for a very long time, maybe forever, right? That you were in that process towards you were filling out application after application, and at 102 is toward it that you get mad at it, and then that's why that you're going to say something like that. Yeah, well, something's not right, or that's it don't work. It's not working. Well, that's what I did last time, but it wasn't working. But so a lot of times it seems like the error, like a lot of us will maybe say too, that a number of times that you tried though, that it's like that whenever you do. Whenever you do fill out a job application, a lot of times, what does that really teach? What does that really teach us? Whenever you do fill out a job application, a lot of times, that is that really supposed to teach us about, the availability, or like everybody else would say too, is to where that, try not to dwell on it, too much at time. Is to where if you believe that maybe 10% of your time spent on job applications is just a little bit too much, then if anything, you can go and just say is to where it's only 5%. And just say 5% of your time to go and to follow up about the job status. But really, that when we speak about the job applications, though, that the key factor of matter is just to know is to where that the thing about your resume especially. So like everybody else may say is to where that your profile and your resume are supposed to look real good, polished. I can put that, polished. So it sure seems that way that every time we speak about job interest and job resumes and all that, and at year 102 is toward that you see not hiring on a lot of these job applications, right? But it sure seems that way toward it that yeah, the number of times that you tried, but it's like it seems like nothing's happened yet. So it's like, if it's really about putting in your fair share of the work, is it about being patient, or could it also be about, as a fact about, is to where that really that the work is going to be gradually paid off on its own, to where the fact about that like everybody else might even say too, that the number of times that you tried, and if you're just really getting tired of filling out one application after another, then they'll probably tell you this toward then you can go ahead and maybe spend a little bit more time updating your profile and resume, but at the same time, know that what belongs to you. So a lot of times it sure seems that way that you may think that there's zero resources that belong to you than compared to what belong to the company. But you say no, that's not true, because whenever you first started working a job, there was a lot of things that you provided to that company that maybe that they should be grateful for. So whenever you are working for a company, that's one thing that I'm sure we all should think about. Whenever we apply for a job, even during a job interview, that there are some things that do belong to you that the company is getting from you, that for what they provide and what they sell, right? And so that's why it seems like to where if you want to put that, like like if you would actually work an actual distiller file and actually work right there on distiller and or any other source of project management and 102 day, if you're going to be talking about now hiring, that not only are you saying to where that your doors are open, our doors are open, but still more specific, right? But our doors are open. our doors are open, but like everybody else might even say that, no, they're not. They're not open on the west side, or not. They're not open on the east side, or something like that. But it sure seems that way to where that yeah, for anything that approaches the person's attention, especially. But what does belong to you, that companies really find at need. What I usually call, this is where the magic begins. This is where the magic begins. I say is to where that when it works. When it works. So it's like, yeah, so almost all the time that they say whenever you try an idea or something like that, yeah, when it works, but still, say for much is appreciated, right? But anyway, but hopefully that's some good advice right there. Talk about for jobs though, and like everybody else might even say too, that whenever you do apply for a job, and let's just say if it is for the Apple computers or maybe for the iPhone, that iPhone, and let's just say that if you have an iPhone or maybe an Android computer, and let's just say that there's going to be, you might get an email, telling you that hey, that we were able to trace, track your device, and we were able to see your activity, and we were just wondering that yeah, we have a position that's open for you, and yeah, modification. So yeah, a lot of times it seems like, if you have an iPhone, that do you think that on average though that you might say is toward it? Well, the phone belongs to me, but then this company is actually telling me, yeah, an invitation that they're inviting me to go to this meeting here, and so like everybody else might even want to know too, is to where that now can now hiring also include an invitation? Can now hiring also include like anything such as newsletters sent to you just because you're special or something like that? But so really that it's like any sorts of logos or iconic look or anything like that, and like anybody say is to like the Apple logo right here, and somebody might even say that, well, really, it could also be FedEx labels. It could also be maybe the Toshiba company or something like that. But still, jobs can mean a number of things, right? But on the other hand too, it sure seems that way toward it. For who gets to hire you first, and a lot of times it seems like that somebody might even say is toward it. Yeah, doors start opening up more to more opportunities. Maybe that on over the fact about is to where whenever companies are do have openings available, and but a lot of times what I usually see though is that whenever upgrades, we need somebody with the proper knowledge and the right experience, and so yeah. So it sure seems that way that whenever you see now hiring, it seems like it's all about the next steps. And like if you are hired, but still, other than like maybe rolling the dice or something like that, that you want to know too that if you were to roll the dice, you roll the dice until you land on 4. Roll the dice until well, that would be called cheating, wouldn't it? Roll the dice. Roll the dice, and land on 4. So a lot of times it seems like if you were to roll the dice and land on four, that would be what you call setting a rule, right? But a lot of times everybody else might say that if you land on 5, then what would that mean? Maybe if you land on 2, what would that mean? But still. So it sure seems that way that, if you've done this a number of times to where it seems like it's all about the fun and games, huh? But still, like anybody say, yeah, you can go, you could even say that again or even spell it. All about the fun and games. It's all about the fun and games. But like everybody else might even say too, that yeah, well, what if you check your account and you see that you have more points and more credits added onto your account, or maybe that the fact about that you there's a lot of things that are uncertain about a job application, right? And like everybody else might even say too that that yeah, you didn't get the job, but let's just say if you find out maybe a week later that you didn't get the job, but still you actually got a free membership pass or something like that, or maybe if you earned points and credits or something like that. So it sure seems that way. That yeah, give it. That's usually what I hear too. Give it 48 hours to process, but I know I'm talking a lot here, but hopefully this is some good information to everybody who's looking for a job or trying to get that promotion that you've been waiting for. But on your hand, it seems like that the most aggravating part about it could also be about the fact about that you gotten a return, and that return is going to say something like, well, we decided to move forward with the process, or we'll get back to you about it. And so it sure seemed like, yeah, it's all about the fun and games. So it's like, while you're waiting, that you actually play an activity. I'm like, yeah, you're doing an activity, and I know a lot of times it seems like that's usually how you're able to get a lot of your mind off of a lot of the stress and anxiety that goes on. And so it's like, yeah, while you're waiting to get a response from about the job opportunity, while you're waiting that you're getting on going online and playing this game or something like that, or maybe if you're checking out the prizes and maybe tokens of appreciations or something like that on these applications. And so you're navigating away from this application after you applied, and you navigate away, go do something else, or maybe shop online, do something else, right? And it seems like the time, it goes much faster whenever you get busy with something else, right? But at the same time, it seems like that yeah, well, really that it'll take up to 48 hours for you to be processed, but let's just say at the same time though that you get an automatic response, and a lot of times that's usually what it is. Yeah, you get an automatic response, and yep. You get an automatic response, but it sure seems that way. That you know that whenever you do get a call back about for an interview, a lot of times, and like everybody else might even say that why does it take maybe up to 3 hours, and you may think that well, really there ain't nothing on that job ad that says 15 minutes can't get you the job or something like that. But on the other hand, too, that is to where that I guess whenever you fill out a job application, a lot of times, what's one thing the key factor in matter is just to know is as to where yeah, what belongs to you, but then also something that teaches the company something. I'm like, yeah, what inspires you so far as your education and the things that you're familiar. So yeah, a lot of things are going through my mind, especially too. Every time I think about filling out an application, if it's maybe going to be for the Apple company, or maybe if it's going to be Macintosh, or maybe the Dell company, or maybe HP, or maybe Compaq Computers, or maybe working in a medical lab or something like that. That it seems like that yeah, whenever you think about that, is to where number one, yeah, whenever you look at those jobs, it seems like that there you are not really familiar with a lot of those openings, and let's just say that in your work field that you're used to is toward yeah, working with computers, but then it seems like toward that a lot of the results that you get whenever you go to those job sites here lately, I can tell, have a lot of times it's like if you want to kind of call it the sequel, or if you want to kind of look at it as a promotion to where talk about the senior or junior designer, or maybe the front desk clerk or something like that, or it could also be the secretary, or it could also be the occupational therapist or somebody like that. So it sure seems that way that you want to know too. What does that mean? Does that mean the next chapter, or does that mean that okay, this company? Oh yeah, we are now opening our doors to these new positions that are now available, and so now it seems like now hiring pretty much means that their doors are open, right? But at the same time, it seems like that you just really want to ask as toward, I'm like, what belongs to you? And you want to go ahead and, rephrase that into a source of question, but it sure seems that way that, do you want to put that into a question mark, or do you want to really put that into like a point of perspective to where it really, what belongs to you? What does belong to you? And well, why should we hire you before we hire this other candidate? Or hey, that there's something about you, that you were picked for this job, or you were chosen for the job. That there's something about you that we need, or if you can do me a favor. And so it sure seems though that when we speak about the career opportunities, especially for career opportunities, it seems like yeah, why not career opportunities. Why not why not why not be flexible? Why not? And if you want to put like maybe comment right, but why not be flexible? But it seems like it's all about our doors are open. And it means it's toward that availability. Is here. Availability is here, and then also open-minded. So I guess, whenever you get a call about a job opportunity, that there's going to be questions that they're going to maybe be asking you that maybe that you're not quite used to. So it's like being open-minded and perspective. But it seems like to me that it's like questions for them, and then questions, but at the time it seems like that to where that just knowing about it, if there's a really perfect answer for that, for being open-minded, I'm like, if they ask you a question and for sure that is toward it, you start talking to them, I'm like, very impressive. Optimistic, impressive. So I know that's a lot of information right there, but if that's, helpful enough, but very impressive. So just be a surprise, just be impressive, but anyway, but talk about for the opportunity. So it sure seems that way that you whenever you apply for a job, that it seems like to where that there's a lot more to it. You want to put that on. There's a lot more to it. The details. There was a lot more to it. To the details, right? And so that's why it seems like toward it. Do you really want to explain to everybody about what all that you had to put together and what all that you had to work out? And everybody said best opportunities for everybody. About the details. It's like for what it's about, but anyway, for what belongs to you, especially for now hiring. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.